Hey everybody, I hope everyone's doing well today. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at a product that that impressed the daylights out of me. It is really a remarkable product, and I think it is definitely a unit that punches above its weight. We're going to talk about the Fosi S3 Streamer DAC. So please sit back, relax, and we'll get going on this review. So what is the Fosi S3? Well, it's a $260 streamer DAC, Bluetooth receiver. It can be a preamp. It's really remarkable. I'll put some specs up here. The bottom line is really good chipset, really good layout. You'll see when we look inside. Good performance, nice set of goes intos and goes outas, and it's just really a wonderful product that really caught me by surprise. Well, the S3, I think, definitely punches above its price point at $260. Being fully balanced and having the great set of goes intos and goes outas, I think it represents one of the strongest values currently available in affordable hi-fi streaming. In a crowded market focused more on convenience than sound quality, the S3 delivers both with impressive functionality and genuinely enjoyable audio performance. It's got one of my favorite DAC chips in it. So what really surprised me most about the S3 is it never feels cheap in actual use. Instead, it behaves like a very thoughtfully designed audio component that simply costs far less than expected. At the heart of the S3 is the excellent AKM AK4493SEQ DAC chip, and in my opinion, it sounds remarkably good. It's one of my favorite DACs. It's a Velvet Sound, AKM Velvet Sound chip, so it has a lot of great sonic characteristics. The presentation is smooth, detailed, musical, clean, never sterile, never super analytical. You know, there's a real natural tonal balance that makes long listening sessions enjoyable, and honestly, I prefer its sound to anything I've heard from WiiM or Bluesound at or near this price point. Well, the S3 has a really nice feature set. You know, it combines a streamer, a DAC, and a preamp into one compact chassis. And you know what, for many users that could easily become the centerpiece of a serious but affordable hi-fi system. Just add a power amp and speakers, or some active speakers if you want to. Connectivity, I think, is one of its biggest strengths. You know, it does AirPlay 2, Spotify Connect, TIDAL Connect, Google Cast, DLNA or UPnP, Bluetooth, and Fosi included several really useful physical connections on the back of the unit. I especially appreciate the Toslink optical input, which allows older CD players or digital transports to remain useful in a modern system. Just take the spit out on that old CD player of yours and plug it in here and you're ready to go. I think the analog RCA input is equally welcome, since many compact streamers omit analog inputs entirely. Fosi also included HDMI eARC, which I think is a really nice feature, because now you can combine your TV integration, make it really simple, especially if you do Apple Music off your TV. Now you got a way to do it, and with a really good DAC. So combined, and it also has a dedicated subwoofer output. You'll see when we look at the front and the back and so forth. The S3 can easily serve as a foundation of a compact 2.1 music system in a real basic home theater setup. Now, as a preamp, the S3 offers both RCA and balanced XLR outputs, making it easy to pair with a wide variety of other equipment like amplifiers or preamplifiers. Well, here we are looking at the front panel of the S3. Real quick, I wanted to show you, it does come with a remote control. It is Bluetooth, so you do have to pair it when you first set it up. I find it to be a bit inconvenient. I never really needed it because I was interacting with the unit through the app. Anyway, let's power it up, and you'll see it go through its little LED light dance sequence. Now, this is the power and input switch. So short press turns the unit on, the indicator lights will blink. A short press again will switch the input from network, Bluetooth, RCA, HDMI, optical. Long press will power the unit off. Now, it does have memory recall. Now, this button is your Bluetooth repairing output switch, factory reset. A short press output switch, optical, RCA, or XLR. And note, the subwoofer output you'll see on the back is always active, and it's unaffected by any of the button pressing. Now, long press for 2 seconds puts it in Bluetooth mode to repair the unit. Long press for 5 seconds resets the unit to its factory default. You have your volume encoder. As again, I didn't interact with this unit very much because I was doing everything through the app. Anyway, so that's a look at the front panel. Let's spin it around and look at the back. Well, here we are looking at the back of the S3, and I think this is where it separates itself from the rest of the pack. Starting on your right, HDMI eARC. Now you can bring your TV in if you want to do TV sound through this and use the internal DAC. You can also use this if you use Apple TV as your streaming source. Got a great way to connect it now. 12 volt input, you could use a linear power supply if you want to. 12 volt trigger. Again, if we're using this as a preamp, now I can turn on the amps. We've got a Toslink optical in, so if we want, let's say we don't have HDMI eARC on our older TV set, we could come out optical into it if we want to. Or we could bring a different source in, a CD player or something like that. RJ45 for hardwired network. Analog input. This is nice. You've got a turntable with a built-in phono preamp, an old cassette deck, something you want to integrate in, we can do it. You've got optical out if you want to run to an external deck. We've got a subwoofer out, which is really nice. Now, no bass management, just a single mono subwoofer out. And then we've got XLR and single-ended outputs, and I think that's wonderful. They are active all the time. So you could go XLR out to your amplification for your speakers, and you could take the single-ended and go out to maybe a dedicated headphone amp or something like that if you wanted to. Anyway, I think the comprehensive set of goes into and goes out is on this unit, separates itself definitely from its competition. So anyway, now that we've looked at the outside of the unit, let's take a look at the inside. Well, here we are looking at the inside of the S3. As you can see, there's a lot of wires. There's actually two antennas in here. I think one for Bluetooth and one for Wi-Fi networking, and it works really well and connects very nicely. Now, this part of the unit is where all the good stuff happens. So let's zoom in on that. Well, here we are zoomed in. On this side right here is where the HDMI eARC comes in, where the optical Toslink comes in, where the optical Toslink goes out. Now this chip handles the eARC. There's also an oscillator clock right here. It's hard to see, but this chip handles all of that, the HDMI eARC processing, the SPDIF processing for input, not for output. That's handled differently for input. Now underneath this board is where the RJ45 jack comes in on the back panel. It's hard to see me pointing at it, but underneath there is the network controller card, and there is also an oscillator clock there as well. So it's comparing the incoming data signal to a clock signal and therefore correcting for any timing issues. Now, once that's all done through either this board or the board underneath, it is sent over here to the Amlogic A113X chip. And what that chip is, it is a system controller. It manages the network streaming. It manages the operating system functions, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth management, audio stream decoding, the digital stream before it hits the DAC, app communication, digital routing and clocking. It handles, once it's processed up here, it handles the HDMI eARC and the USB and SPDIF input management. So it does an awful lot. And a lot of times you'll see in DACs an FPGA and an XMOS processor and then possibly a SPDIF controller chip like an AKM chip or a Cirrus Logic chip. Fosi chose to do it all on an ARM processor, and it's very powerful and very fast. And also, too, it's a little hard to see, but there is an oscillator clock right there that it can compare its timing against. This is a memory buffer. I'm not sure exactly what that chip does, but once this handles all of that, and it's got a good steady signal, it sends it over here to the AKM AK4493SEQ DAC chip, and it does all the magic and all the decoding. Really, really one of my favorite DACs. Now, you'll see some op amps here. These are all TI OPA 1612s. 1612s are great because they're a symmetrical high-speed op amp. You measure op amps in slew rate, microvolts per second, and the 1612 is 27 volts up, 27 volts down. So very fast, very high speed, a really good op amp. Anyway, that's a look at the inside of the S3. Let's button this up and get on with the rest of the review. Well, as you can see from looking inside, the unit is really well put together, and I couldn't, and I failed to mention it, and I should have because I forgot when I was filming. Underneath that little board on top where the SPDIF control, where the HDMI eARC and the SPDIF inputs were, underneath there was an oscillator clock that I think clocks the whole system, so it does a good job that way. I think also too that Amlogic AM113 chip, the ARM processor, I think that adds a lot, where a lot of streamers in this price category would just do an XMOS processor and maybe an off-the-shelf Cirrus Logic TI or AKM SPDIF controller. I think the ARM processor adds a lot to the mix as far as sound quality. I also think the magic occurs with that AKM AK4493 chip. And, you know, from a sound quality standpoint, the S3 just simply sounds good. There's a smoothness and a coherence here that reminds me why I like AKM DAC chips and why so many audio enthusiasts really like AKM DAC chips. The soundstage is spacious, vocals have good body, and the overall presentation leans musical rather than hyper-analytical. For a product in this price range, the S3 avoids many common budget digital audio pitfalls. It never sounded thin or brittle, and it never got fatiguing during any of my listening experiences. So now let's talk about the user experience. One of the things I appreciate most about the S3 is how simple and straightforward the overall experience is. The software isn't flashy or overloaded with unnecessary feature, but honestly, and I think that works in its favor, unlike some of its competitors. You know, I found the streaming performance of the S3 to be consistently excellent. Now, I primarily use two methods of connection. I use TIDAL Connect, and I could do that from my tablet, my phone, whatever. And I also used UPnP, or sometimes referred to as DLNA/UPnP, Universal Plug and Play, from my Artivana server connected up. I could also run into it and use it as a DAC from various sources, and I found the playback to be extremely reliable. Now, although my unit normally is hardwired, the wireless performance actually was really stable, responsive, and super clean sounding. Now, even the Bluetooth performance, you know, I rarely use Bluetooth anywhere except in the car. It connected quickly, and you know what? It sounded surprisingly good for casual listening. So let's do this. Let me insert the section where I filmed the Fosi software on my tablet, and I'll show you kind of how it works. It's basic, it's simple, but it works really well. So we're going to do that next. Okay, here we are looking at the home page for the Fosi S3, running this on my Samsung Galaxy Tab in Android. So you can see music services available, media sources. You can choose your optical inputs, whatever. You have control, mute, mic mute if you want to use a mic. And then you can choose your outputs you'll see along the bottom. Now, along the very bottom, you'll see home, my devices, settings, equalizer, and a volume control. So one of the things I need to let you know is right before I started filming this, there was an update that they included now, Qobuz Connect. So you got Qobuz Connect, Spotify, Roon Ready, Tidal, so forth, UPnP, Bluetooth, line in, HDMI in, all of those things there. Very, very nice. So then we come over and go to the bottom. We're going to go to My Devices, and it's going to show you that Fosi unit. I can power it on and off from here if I wish to. So go ahead and touch that. It'll bring us back into the home page. Then I can go to Settings, and there's Audio Processing, which gives me access to my equalizer should I want it. And I don't really care about equalizer, so I don't use those. And then Volume Settings, I can preset the power on, volume control, so forth and so on. You can also adjust the volume from the remote control. Bluetooth network setup, very simple. What type of network? I've got it configured for both wired and wireless. Network info, show you real quick what's going on, where we're at. SSID, IP4 addresses, all of those other things. Then we come down firmware version update. Like I said, it just updated, so I don't need to worry about that. Services settings, and that's AirPlay and Qobuz Connect. Set maximum audio quality. I've got it set for high res. For AirPlay, I don't do Apple, so I'm not exactly sure. You got to put your password in. I'm not big on that one. And then device settings. So you can name the device. You can change your language, clock, display intensity, the little LEDs, display intensity in standby. You can change the skin on this. The keyboard layout is normal. Return to play screen time 10 seconds, so forth and so on. Factory reset. So that's all of that. Then there is an equalizer button. You can go straight to the EQ. So let's go back to home, and we'll go in, and I'm going to actually, what you will see is I'm going to go ahead and start a UPnP from Artivana in the other room, since we're all on the same network, and I'm going to go ahead and start that, and that should take precedence over this. There you go. You'll see the UPnP. Now, down along the bottom, you'll see, if I touch that, it's Art Farmer, and it's Art in Europe. And you can adjust the volume. You can see the play time, skip ahead, skip back. It also shows you, very small, but it shows you the bitrate and so forth, sample frequency for that particular track. You can play pause, you can skip forwards. We'll go ahead and skip forward a track. There we go. So as you can see, quite interesting, very easy to use. Simple, straightforward, gets to your music so quick. That's the thing that I like more than anything. It gets out of the way and lets you do what you want to do. So anyway, that's a look at the Fosi S3 Android app anyway. Let's go ahead and finish up this review. One of the things I particularly like about the S3 is it stays focused on the fundamentals. Most users will likely spend almost all their time interacting with the unit through TIDAL Connect, Spotify Connect, UPnP like I did, AirPlay, rather than constantly interacting with the native app itself. You know, compared to some of the other competing ecosystems, and we're going to talk about a couple of them coming up, those can feel bloated and they can be unstable. The S3 has been refreshingly easy to live with. It simply connects and plays the music consistently. The included Bluetooth remote, honestly, is one of the few aspects that I'm not especially fond of. I would have preferred a traditional IR remote, although in practice it matters very little because the app clearly is the best way to control the device. So for comparisons, please note, if I didn't mention a product, it's because I didn't make that comparison. So please don't ask me how this compares to that if I didn't discuss that particular product, that other product. So the obvious comparison is the WiiM Pro Plus at $219. It's in a similar price range. And I'll tell you what, the S3's got a way better set of goes intos and goes outas. It's got a way better user experience in my mind. You know, the Pro Plus does use the same AKM DAC chip, but I think it's a different implementation. I've heard there have been clocking and jitter issues with a lot of the WiiM products. You know, the WiiM's software ecosystem is unquestionably one of its strongest assets. But that said, I personally find the software somewhat bloated and often cumbersome to navigate. And again, it's got so many features that you're going to use like, you know, during the honeymoon period, the first week or so, and then you're not going to use them and you just want to get to your music. Now, the most important thing is if you're using Spotify Connect, TIDAL Connect, AirPlay, or UPnP playback, you're not going to spend much time inside the WiiM app anyway after you set it up. And from a sonic perspective, absolutely, I prefer the sound of the S3. It feels a bit more refined and much more mature sonically. Well, let's compare it to the Bluesound Node Nano, which is a more expensive unit at $429. It's an obvious competitor in this kind of price range. And the Bluesound, I'm not a big fan of. You know, many users have reported reoccurring BlueOS issues ranging from disappearing devices to sluggish performance to playback glitches after updates. You know, by contrast, my experience with the Fosi S3 has been refreshingly smooth and straightforward. Most of the time, I've simply launched the Connect-enabled app or used UPnP playback, and you know what? Everything worked exactly as I expected. Well, you guys know I always tell you what kind of equipment I tested this with, and even at a $260 streamer, I think this thing punches above its price class and above its weight. So I put it in some very sophisticated systems. I use several systems to evaluate kind of its flexibility and its performance. I spent some of my time using it with the A12 Classic integrated amplifier. And you know what? This thing performed really, really well as a streaming source. Most of my listening, however, was done using either the Black Ice F22 tube amp or the Wilsonton R11 preamp feeding the Orchard Audio mono blocks. And that was a great combination as well. Really good. You saw that in the B-roll. For speakers, I rotated between the Fine Audio F502S units, the Philharmonic Cantables, I don't know how to pronounce that, and more recently, the Amphion Argon 7LX, a $10,000 pair of floor standing speakers. I'll get it right. What impressed me most about is that the S3 never felt out of place in any of those systems. I even paired it with considerably more expensive equipment, and you know what? It provided a consistently clean, musical, and engaging presentation. I think for $260 for a streamer DAC, the S3 really delivers a level of refinement that allows it to integrate comfortably into systems far beyond what most people would expect at this price. Well, in the spirit of full disclosure, there will be an affiliate link to this product in the video description and in the pinned comment if you are so interested in purchasing it. So my final thoughts, my final verdict, you know what? I think the Fosi S3 succeeds because it focuses on things that really matter. It sounds genuinely good. It really does. It offers really good connectivity. It works reliable. It's very stable. The app was very stable, very usable. And you know what? It provides enough flexibility to serve as the centerpiece of a very nice modern hi-fi system. I think at $260, it's genuinely difficult not to be impressed. You know, it's not trying to compete with multi-$1,000 streamer DACs, but within its price class, you know, the S3 feels remarkably complete, refined, and very musically satisfying. You know, for listeners looking to build a compact, affordable, and highly capable streaming audio setup, the Fosi S3, I think, may very well represent one of the strongest values currently available in hi-fi audio. Highly recommended. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you'd consider giving me a like and subscribing to the channel. I would appreciate that. Maybe you want to ring the bell to get notified the next time I put out a video. I would like to take a moment and say thank you to my current channel members and subscribers. Thank you all. Your support is invaluable and I appreciate it. As I mentioned, there will be an affiliate link for this product in the pinned comment and video description. Also in the pinned comment and video description is a link to join the channel if you are so inclined. In the video description itself, I did not use any music, but there is a link to the community post playlists. There's some wonderful music there. If you have a playlist you want me to share, email it to me. There are some additional affiliate links in the video description. You guys know the drill on that. Comment, let me know your thoughts. Yes, I think this is better than a WiiM product. Yes, I think it's better than a Bluesound product. Yes, I think you'd have to spend $500 or more to get a better streamer than this. I think the IEMA DM100 is probably a better unit, but again, it's $500. It's twice the money. At the price point, I'm not sure anything touches this, and that's, so let me know your thoughts on that. Anyway, please consider liking, please consider subscribing, comment always. If you want to, you can follow me on Instagram. My name is Ed Holmwood. This is the Old Guy Hi-Fi channel, and please, take a moment to listen to the music you love today. Just relax and enjoy it. Thank you so much for the time you gave me. I really appreciate it. I really hope you have a wonderful day.